Okay, so here we go. I'm going to try to walk you through how to create some maps and that you're going to be using for your management plans. So this is in lieu of last week's assignment. Hopefully, you'll be able to carve out time over the next couple of weeks where you can get inside the GIS lab and work on these maps. So uh, we're going to create about 4 or 5 maps, base maps, locator map, and all that good stuff. I know the assignment that's online is working you through the DuPont property. I'm going to do this tutorial on the Fowler forest, and you can either do the DuPont if you want, or you can work on the Fowler and turn either one in as a PDF where the assignment is going to be. I'll change the date of the assignment to make sure that it reflects a couple of weeks for you to get in there and do it. If you're having trouble with it, you know, get up with me and I can help walk you through. But use this tutorial, just have it play in the background, while you're working, and you do a step, and then you play the tutorial, follow what I'm doing, and you start and stop the tutorial anytime you want. So anyway, this is where we're going to be starting. I'm going to be showing you a couple of different things besides what you have probably learned in the GIS class last year. I want to show you some live streaming things that make things a little bit easier. I'm going to show you some software that hopefully Caleb will have loaded up onto the computers in the GIS lab by the time you're ready to use them. If not, I'll go ahead and get them loaded up myself, and at least on a couple of computers. So a couple of and what this application will do is automatically place a grid of points on on your property, on your timber cruise areas, so that you have some points to use. All right, and so we'll see how well that works. I'm going to create another tutorial that's going to walk you through soil, the, the, the soils web, web, web soil service, or whatever that's called, WSS, and walk you through how to create a document in case you've forgotten. Okay, and you can use your shapefile to create that soils. So let's get started with this. Basically, what we're going to be doing is starting a brand new ArcGIS project. So you don't need to open an existing project. You just want a nice, clean project up and running. And first thing you're going to do is open up a live stream to a GIS server that's run and maintained by the NC1Map project. Okay, which is the geospatial data repository for North Carolina, and they have parcel data for all of covers the whole state. Okay, so we're going to pull that in and select our parcel off of that. So what you'll need to do is to see if I can get this over here so you can see it on the excuse me, in the forest management class. If you scroll down to the GIS resources, you'll see these links, and there's one that's for parcels, contour, streams, and ortho imagery. So you're gonna go ahead and highlight that, right mouse click it, and click on copy. Okay, I'm gonna move this back so get it out of the way. So you got that kind of just sitting on the clipboard right now, ready to paste. Okay. Thing I'm going to show you is it's been pasted into my computer a whole pile of times, so I've got lots and lots and lots of repetitions of this, so I'll show you that, and if you see it on your computer, then you don't need to go through the pasting process. Okay, so anyway, just hang tight and I'll show you what I mean. Basically, where you're going to go is just like you're adding data normally. Okay, so you click on add data, and I'm going to back up here. I think I might have to. So this is what you might probably will see. And you've got the folder connections, that's usually turned on, and that shows you all the different C drive folders and M drive folders that you've set up on ArcGIS. We're not going to be using that right now. We're going to be using GIS servers. Okay, so you're just going to click on that, and what you should see are these 5 things, and you'll probably see a whole couple of these other things on there too. I've got a whole bunch of extras on mine because I don't know how to delete the darn things. I got to figure that out sometime. But if you don't see one that says secure on services NC1map.gov, then you're going to have to add it. If you do see it on there, then just hang tight because you don't need to paste it in. But if you don't see it, basically what you're going to do is go to Add GIS Server, and you can make sure it says Use GIS Services. And right here, you're going to just delete what's in that server URL and then paste in that link that you just grabbed, okay? And then you would click Finish. I'm not going to do that because I've got a gazillion already loaded up. And when you do that, basically what you'll see is secure on services nc1map.gov. All right? If you do see it and you got the little red X, don't sweat it. As soon as you click on it, it'll go out and find it. Okay? So once you do load it, if you did load it like that, it'll have a little green dot like that right there next to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it up. And it may take a couple of minutes the first time you're doing it because it's going out there and loading up all this server information. So you have a whole bunch of stuff here. You have elevations, which it's really just contour lines. May or may not be handy. You could use that if you want. It's got imagery, which we're definitely going to be using the imagery. All right. And we can go ahead and pull. Well, we'll pull in the other stuff first. So let's just back out of that. And if you scroll to the right, you can see you got all this different types of stuff: hydrography, parcels, all this kind of lots and lots and lots of data out there that you could use for future maps if you want. Notice that there's 2 parcel maps. You want to select the one on the bottom. It looks like it's got that little comic strip balloon there, or a call out. That's the one you want because it's got the information necessary for you to be able to capture and clip and do all this other stuff. So you give it a second to load up, and notice it's not showing anything right now. It's because we're zoomed out to the whole state level, and it's not going to draw 14 gazillion polygons for me. So it's actually set so when you zoom in beyond a certain level, then it'll start drawing it for you. Okay, but the reason I pulled that in is if you right mouse click on layers and go to properties, is because it went ahead and set the current coordinate system to North Carolina State Plains, which is nice. Right? When I'm calculating acreages and stuff like that, I want it to be based on this state plane coordinate system. So just by virtue of the fact that I pulled that in, it set the layer to that format there. So that's what it's going to be operating in right now. So I don't need to do anything there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a background map so I can find where that parcel is. And you've all done this in ArcGIS. You go to Add and then go Add Base Map. And I'm going to load up the one that's streets. Okay, it's a simple, easy one to use. That's also going to be the map I'm going to use for my locator. So I click Add, and it will zoom me in to all of North Carolina. If I didn't do that, it would have zoomed me out to the whole world. But it's zooming me into the extent of this. It's got a little problem with the coordinate system because it's not matching up with the state planes. It matches up okay, so don't worry about it. Just hit close. And I'm going to move over into around the Asheville area. I'm going to zoom in to around Haywood County, area that I'm familiar with. And now it's starting to draw these centroids and parcels. I don't want it to draw all that. I'm just going to turn the centroids off. I don't want to fill my map up with a gazillion little dots. So there's Balsam, there's Waynesville, so the Fowler's right in here somewhere. I'm just going to zoom in on this area. And once I zoom in, actually now you can see the parcels that are going to start drawing. So there's all the parcels, and if I'm not sure which parcel I want to use, or which one's the correct one, if I can't recognize it by its shape, I've got the little info or the identity button. I can start clicking around, and it'll go to the database. Yes, it's pulling over all the GIS database for all these parcels with it. That's Cunningham. That's not the one I want. How about this one? Nope, that's Nichols. Okay, how about this one here? Oh yeah, there's the Fowler Forest, Haywood Community College. Bingo, we've got it. So that's the one that I want to save. I don't want to work with all these parcels. I want to just pull that one out and save it as its own file. Okay, so that's the trick we're going to do right now. So I click on Select Features, select the parcel. It's selected, and now when I go over to parcels, I'm going to right mouse click it. I'm going to go to Data, Export Data, and I'm going to store this on the M drive. Now you all know that you've got an M drive out there, and I'm going to create a Fowler Project folder. I've already got one. I'm going to call it Fowler Project 2. I'll just call it Fowler 2. You want to name your project after your landowner, probably, that you're going to be working on. So I'm going to call this first one Boundary. Make sure it's a shapefile. Click Save. And so it's going to Fowler 2, boundary.shape. And yeah, I want to pull it in as a layer. So I'm going to go ahead and export this one more time. And I'm going to export it. So I go Parcels, I right mouse click, go Data, Export Data. And I'm going to save it. Notice it's pointing to Fowler 2, which is nice. I'm going to export this as management units, okay, or MUs. That way I can carve this one up. I don't want to carve up the boundary one. I want to keep that as a background and as a backup in case I screw this one up. Okay, so it's nice to have a backup. And so go ahead and add that. All right, well, I'm all done with those parcels. I don't need them anymore. I got what I needed from it. But so thank you very much, NC1 Map. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And I'm going to zoom in. Actually, I'm not going to zoom in yet. I'm just going to make this bright red because I'm going to use this for my locator map. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. That's pretty good. It's not great. Let me pan a little bit more just so we can get Waynes. Oh, we got downtown Waynesville. We got Lake Logan. So those are some good landmarks in order to make this a decent locator map. So that's pretty much how I'm going to keep it. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Layout View. And that's not bad. Not bad at all. Let me go ahead and get the size a little bit bigger. And my suggestion to you is to store this as both a JPEG and a PDF. Why a PDF? Because you're going to be loading the PDF up on Moodle so I can grade it. Why a JPEG? Because a JPEG you could pull into your Word document that you're going to be working on so much easier than a PDF. In other words, you can just pull that right into your Word document as a JPEG, insert it as a picture, and then you could type right around it. So it's really nice that way. So anyway, that's my locator map. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a title. Fowler locator. And things are drawing a little slow here. So Come on, you. And I'm going to also open up my drawing tool, and it's not listed here, so in order to do that, you do a right mouse click up where your toolbars are, and you'll see draw. And now the drawing tool gives me options. I'm going to actually just go ahead and do a text box right here, and I'm going to just type in Fowler Forest. And I'm going to move it. Going to put in a scale bar. This will be in miles. Click OK. Drag that where I want it. And put in a north arrow. That'll do just ducky. Oops. Yeah, I wanted to resize it a little bit. There we go. And so now you got your locator map. Okay? Sweet. So I'm going to save this as do a save as. And I'm going to save this map document. Why am I saving the map document? Let me bounce out of that folder. Go to my other Fowler project. And I'm going to save it as Fowler Locator. And so that's actually storing it as a map document. Why? Because if I lose this, if I lose the JPEG or the PDF, I could always come back into ArcGIS, open that project back up again, and then resave it as a PDF. So it's always good to save your projects, right? And saves you a lot of trouble rather than having to go and redo all that. So that's been saved, and now I'm going to go ahead and export it. Go File, Export, and I got to point to the right folder. There it goes, and it's giving it the same name. I'm going to export it as a JPEG first, again, so that you could pull that into a Word document as a picture, and it's taking its sweet time. And then I'm going to go ahead and export it again as a PDF so that you could load it up onto Moodle for me to look at. It's really good to put your name on these somewhere. I'm not going to require it for this, but when you're doing it for your real project, you want to state who actually made this map for you. So normally you would do that, and you might even just include that in the title, or you could actually just do a text box and put it, prepared by, and your name and the date. So in fact, I think I'll just do that. Prepared by James Yake, 1/19. 18. Sweet. Hit enter. And move it where you want it to go. Nice. And that'll carry over to all our maps. Okay, so we'll have all that stuff set up, and things will be just perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and save it again. And I'm going to go ahead and do those two exports. Okay, so I went ahead and saved those. And now I'm going to move on to the next series of maps here. All right, I'm going to go back into my map drawing side of ArcGIS, and I'm going to zoom in to the management units. So I right mouse click, go zoom the layer. And of course I really don't want that red right now, so I'm going to make that clear. So I just click on it, go hollow, and do the outline width. I'm going to make that probably 3, and I think I'll make it red so I can see it. So it should look like that fill color should be blank, outline width should be 3, outline color could be red, and so now I have that outlined. And the boundary, I don't necessarily have to have that, but I like keeping it there. I'm going to just go ahead and make it hollow. I'm going to make it a little bit wider so you can see the boundary underneath the red map. So I'll keep that like that. Keep my one that's going to be carved up for management units red. And now I'm going to start pulling in some background information that's going to be more useful than this base map. Okay, I'm going to pull in some aerial photography and some topography and drop them in as background maps. So those are also found at that same uh, website there. So actually, the topography is not, but the aerial is really good, and we'll just be pulling that from the NC1 map. So when I click Add Data again, it's pointing to NC1 map, which is real handy. I could pull in elevation here, and that's just a series of topo lines. You're more than welcome to do that if you want. But then you got to label them and everything. It's a real pain. I just like loading up a background topo map, which we'll do in just a minute. So first thing we'll do is load up the imagery. And why I like this imagery is because it's the newest imagery. If you notice, I've scrolled all the way to the right, and I'm going to select ortho imagery. But what I want you to see is that this imagery dates all the way back to 1995. So you could look at land use change if you want with this. I'm just going to pull up the most latest greatest, and let me show you why I like this. It's leaf off, so you can clearly see hardwoods, and in this case hardwoods versus softwoods. There's some pines over here, some spruce up there, but you could also see those areas where the mountain laurel is really thick in the Fowler forest. Let me zoom in just so you can kind of see the level of detail that these things have. Pretty phenomenal. Okay, I mean, you see individual trees with it, so it's really good photography, and it's just always there. It covers the whole state, so you load that up once and you're good to go. So anyway, I got the aerial photography. I'm going to load up a background of topo as well, and I'm going to pull up just kind of this. I can go to Add Data and pull up the most recent topographic maps. They also have one that's pretty general. It's found under the base data. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that, you'll see USGS national map or USA topos. You can pull either one of those up. I'm going to pull up the USA topos, and it's got a good level of detail in it. You don't want to zoom in too close with them. They could be a little bit grainy when you zoom in. So it's having a little problem with the coordinate system because it's using WGS84, but we're good to go. So it's loaded there. I'm going to pull it up underneath the imagery. So there's the topo maps, there's the imagery, and if I turn the imagery on and off, I can clearly see the topo map. So that's nice. That's a nice way of being able to see the topography. So I'm going to leave the aerial on for now. Two things I'm going to digitize, and you could digitize points, lines, and areas. Lines could represent roads or trails or something like that. And so I'm going to do the road system through the Fowler first, and I'm just going to kind of make it up. I can kind of see it, and I could spend a lot of time trying to zoom in and digitize it. I'm just going to kind of heads up it right now. All right. So, but when you're doing it, you could zoom in and do a much better job of digitizing it in. So, what I got to do in order to create a new layer is I have to open up the catalog, and I've got to find my folder. There it is right there, and I'm going to right mouse click on it, and I'm going to go New Shapefile, and I'm going to call it Road. I'm going to make it a polyline, and I'm going to make it match the coordinate system um, that my that I want my map to be in. So it's going to be 983 US feet. I'm going to scroll down to North Carolina, hit OK, and hit OK. So here it's created this new thing called a road. I'm going to go ahead and, before I start digitizing it, I'm going to make it look more like a road. I like to scroll way down towards the bottom and just select these dashed lines. I'm going to do this one here. I guess this one. And I'm going to make it a little bit fatter. You can see examples of it there. Click OK. And now I can start digitizing it in. So I don't see it on the, it's not on the topo. Well, no, it kind of is. Actually, it's right there on the topo. So I'm just going to follow that. You got a little dashed line there. Kind of cool. So I'm ready to start digitizing this. So I go road. Actually, let me get that catalog out of the way. I'm going to go road, edit features, start editing. And I'm going to select road, make it a line feature, and I can start digitizing it. I think the road goes a little bit closer to the eastern edge of that, but that's okay. Pretty much ends right there, and there's our road. Sweet, huh? And we have streams too, and I can digitize those in. However, I want to show you that you've got some really good hydrography data as well on the NC1 map, so we're going to use that instead. So I'm all done with the road, so I go to editor, stop editing, save my edits, and there's my road. Pretty cool. Alright, I'm going to turn off the base map for a second and turn on the imagery, and I'm going to load up that hydrography data just so we can see that in the background. So you click on add data. Again, it's pointing out to the NC1 map. Right now it's still looking in the imagery folder, so I want to back it out one. And if you scroll to the right, you'll see hydrography. Again, just like with the parcels, I want to select the one that's got the little comic strip call out. Okay, so that's the one I'm going to pull in. And oh my gosh, look at all this stuff it pulls in. Okay, these purple lines here are fantastic. They show all the little streams. It's very detailed. How correct it is, I don't know, but I'm walking around out there and I see those streams all the time, so it looks pretty correct to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, it's actually found on this one. This is the one that we're actually seeing in purple. I could turn off all the other ones. These are all just a whole bunch of different layers that it's loaded up. You don't have to do this. I'm just showing you so that you can see how that works. I'm going to actually minimize all these too. But flow lines, that's the one you want to remember because that's the one we're going to clip. Okay, we're going to clip that one out and store it. And so in order to do that, again, I'm sure you've all done clipping in the GIS class. It's a pretty simple procedure. You go geoprocessing, clip, and the input feature is going to be flow lines right there. Okay, and give it a second. It's a big hunk of data that it's looking at, so it takes a second for it to load up. And the clip feature is just simply going to be my management units. Okay, pretty cool. So I want to make sure it's going to the right folder. Fowler 2. I'm going to call it streams and go to town. And it's going to take a little while, um, so I'm just going to pause this until it's done. And so there we see streams, okay? It popped up. I don't need this hydrography layer anymore because I've clipped out what I needed. I'm just going to remove it. Thank you, NC1 Map. And I'm going to take my streams. I might make them a little bit fatter. And I'm going to give them a nice blue color so we can see them. Alright, so there's our streams. And I could, if I needed to, I can calculate the lengths of them and all that good stuff, because they gives me the lengths in kilometers. But I would probably redo that that length, and I'd probably do it right here. Shape length. I right mouse click it, calculate geometry. I'm going to do it outside in edit mode. That's okay. And I'm going to do it in, let's figure it out in miles, right? How many miles of stream do we have in there? And it's using the current coordinate system, which is nice. And there you have it. Okay. So, stats. I basically have 3.7 miles of streams out there. A lot of streams, right? A lot of water moving down the hill. Alright, so moving on here. We've got our streams, we've got our roads. If you wanted to digitize, unique areas, you would go to open the catalog back up, create a point feature, put all your points in there that you want. So, it's all that same old stuff that you were doing in ArcGIS. This is just kind of a refresher how you do that. One thing that I'm not sure that you did or not, but it's very important, is being able to carve your boundary up into various management units, labeling them, and calculating the acreages of them. So that's the next step here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to the management units, and I'm going to put that in edit mode. Alright, and streams it's got a little problem. That's okay, don't worry about it. So management units is what I'm going to be working on. Alright, and if those of you who have done what they call cut polygon tools, what you have to do in order to do that, and that's what I'm going to use to carve that big red polygon into a whole bunch of smaller red polygons. In order to do that, I have to select the feature though that I'm going to cut. So I do that in my editor toolbar with this edit tool, and so it's selected the big red polygon, and I'm going to go ahead and start carving it. But before I do, I want to just talk to you a little bit about, what is a logical way of carving your area up into management units. Now you're going to be talking to your landowners, and you're going to be getting some idea from them what's different areas that they like. There may be some really logical ways of carving things up. A pine stand versus a hardwood stand versus a pure yellow poplar stand. You could have, the yellow poplar that's a young age, yellow poplar that's an old age. You can have even age stands versus multiple age stands. So, obviously there's some logical ways that they're going to come out and strike you as ways that you're going to be carving the property up. So, but just recall, we did talk about a number of ways last semester of doing that, of creating stands, right? So keep that in mind, and this is time for you to be able to use your expertise that you've gained over the past semester in looking at various stand types and some of these methodologies that we use. The Fowler forest has got a number of different stand types. They're not readily apparent on here. So I would have to probably go out and do a preliminary sketch or walk around out there and go, yeah, I got a yellow poplar stand here, I got a mixed hardwood stand. But what I'm going to use is the topography and the elevation to break it out in some natural areas there, okay? Again, you use whatever judgment you see fit, okay, for managing your land that you're going to be working on. But I've got some high red oak and some spruce fir up here. I've got a kind of a ridge that busts up this cove from this cove here. I've got kind of a midsection right here. I'm going to break out. I'm going to break out basically 4 units out of this. Okay, not quite like what you see when you've been working at the Fowler, but these would be my working units. Okay, so I've got it selected, and now all I need to do is click on the cut polygon tool. And if you've done this before, you'll remember that you have to start outside the polygon that you want to cut. I've got the snapping tool on, and that's okay. So it just snaps to a unit, or snaps to a polygon, or a vertex that's already there. And that's pretty much more or less what I want to carve. So I go on the outside of it, double click, and it clips it out. Okay. Turning off my aerial image for a minute and turning on my topography, I can see that ridge line really clearly here. Okay, so I'm probably going to carve an area out that looks kind of like this, or well, kind of like this. I'm going to stay above this creek, and I'm going to just kind of carve out a mid area, and then I'm going to carve this into two other units there. Okay, so I'm going to kind of use the streams and the ridge lines to kind of carve this piece out. So notice that this polygon is still highlighted. Okay, it's still selected. So all I have to do is make sure that that tool is active. It is. It's got the little box drawn around it, and I can start digitizing. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Just kind of follow this contour for a little ways, and then drop it down that ridge. And again, you know, it's your map. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that off. And then this last one, notice that this is still highlighted, so I can go ahead and digitize this. So I'm going to follow this ridge line down and make that one, and I'm going to make this another. Okay, so the stuff that's draining into this creek is going to be one unit, and the stuff that's draining into this creek is going to be another. So all I need really is one more line going through here, and I'm just going to kind of go right up this ridge line, cross over that line, double click, and there you have it. Okay. So again, I use topo lines for this. You could use aerial, because sometimes your aerial is very distinct as to what you've got. If I wanted to break this up into stands, I probably would have chunked this area out, because I know it's a dry ridge line. I was looking at it more in terms of a watershed and drainages and stuff like that for this. So, you know, again, however you want to go ahead and do that. But it's important that you have a logical reason for why you're chopping your map up the way you're chopping it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear all selections. That's right here. And I'm going to go ahead and save my edits. And I'm going to stop editing for a second. The reason I'm stopping editing is because ultimately what I want to do is label these things, and I want to do that in the database table, and I also want to calculate the acreages of each one. And so what I have to do is create 2 new fields in the database table, and I can't do that when I'm in editing mode. So I'm going to open up the database table for the management units. I right mouse click, go open attribute table, and so here's all that stuff that got carried over from the parcel map. Okay, that's all okay. I can just leave it there, and I'm going to go to the table options and select add field. I'm going to call the first one MUs. I'm going to make it text, and I don't think I'm going to make it more than about 10. characters long. So it's way over on the right hand side. We'll see it in just a minute. But before I go there, I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to call it acres. And I'm going to make that short integer. I'm just going to go to the nearest whole acre on it. That's fine by me. Click OK. And now I scroll way to the right, and there's acres and management units. Okay, so now I can start editing these things, but in order to do that, I have to put it back into edit mode. So I got to go right mouse click on management units, go edit features, start editing, and don't worry about that. So now I can select each one by one, and it'll highlight it. I'm going to call this one management unit number 1, so I'm just going to actually type in MU1. Let's see which one this is. Oh, that's up on top. I'm going to call that MU4. Notice I'm clicking on the box on the left of the table, and that highlights that row in the table. I'm going to call this MU3. And obviously this one now is MU2. Right? So I'll be able to label with those using those fields right there. The other thing before I get out of this table is I'm going to go ahead and right mouse click on acres and go calculate geometry. I'm going to do area. It's going to do it in state plane and feet, which is nice, and I want to do it in acres, and I hit OK. Oops, it only did it for that one because I had that was the only one selected. Okay, what I should do is I need to clear all selections, and now it will do it for everything in that row. So let me do that again. Right mouse click, go calculate geometry, area, state plane coordinates, and acres. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Very nice. Okay, so I can put this off down on the side there so I don't have to go back and open it if I don't need to. It's sitting right there. So I'm going to label these things now. And labeling is pretty easy. What you want to do is make sure that you're pointing to the right field that you're going to label it with, though. So I'm going to double click on MUs, and it's going to pull up its properties window. And in the properties window, you've got labels. Okay, it's pointing now to owner name, and it's not turning on the labels. So first of all, I'm going to turn on the labels, and then I'm going to change that from owner name to MUs. So it's going to label each polygon with the management unit name. I'm probably should make that a little bit larger. I'll go 12 on it, and for the font, and click OK. Ta-da! So that's really cool, but what I would also like is to have the acreages listed as well. And it would be nice to have management unit 4 with the acres underneath it. All right, don't have to, but I like doing that. So how do I do that? I can only have one label turned on at a time. All right, so what I have to do is make these no longer be labels that are associated with this table. In order to do that, I right mouse click on MUs, and it says convert labels to annotation. What that's going to do is it's going to turn those labels, it's going to disassociate them with the table, and they're just going to be graphics. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that it's done in the map. All right, and then hit convert. And so if you click on it now, whoops, let me get my little select feature tool, and now I can click it and I can move it around, and so I could actually edit it. I could double click on it and type it in, and it's not going to affect it in here. Okay, it's not associated with that anymore. So so that frees up the labels now, and I can go ahead and set the labels to acres. Click OK. Oh, it must have turned them off. And there's a little shortcut to actually turn the label features on. And so there it did it. Okay, it loaded them up. Didn't put them where I really would like to see them though. It's kind of in a goofy spot. So, and plus I would also like to have the word acres behind it. Now, this is a numeric value here, so you can't really do that in here. So I'm going to convert these to annotation as well. And then I can move them where I want and I can edit them. So I go right mouse click on that and convert labels to annotation. Make sure it's done in the map and click on convert. And now I can click on each one of these. I can move them where I want. Double click on it and go through the 8 acres. Okay, so now it's pretty clear what that is, what that number is. 52 acres. Okay, 97 acres. Drag that dude right there. And then 142 acres. And put that guy, I'll put it down there somewhere. There we go. Sweet, easy peasy, right? So now we're going to, just the last step here would be to create a series of maps. Now, one thing that is required in this class is that you develop maps of your inventory plots. I'm going to go ahead first with right now and finish this tutorial off with just showing you how you do the layouts for the maps, and then I'm going to do another tutorial which will open the layouts for the topography and the aerial photography, and I'll walk you through the steps that hopefully will work for you all too on a way to calculate or a way to develop inventory plots on this map automatically. Okay, and so the first thing we're going to do is obviously go back into the layout mode, and I want to make sure that my map is going to be the right size. I don't need this thing anymore. I can get rid of that. And just for now, I'm going to turn off the topo. It's kind of taking its time drawing all that stuff. So most of this stuff I'm going to leave here. I'm going to move it around, but most of this stuff is already set to go because it's left over from the locator map. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to change the name of this to Fowler Aerial, if I can spell right. Guess I can't. Fowler Aerial. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to get this map as big as possible on that sheet of paper. Let me pan it over a little bit. Turns out that oops, I think I just messed that up. Turns out that it's a little, let's see if I can get this to get in there. Yeah, that works pretty nice. I'll just move the Fowler Aerial title to the side because it's a little lighter colored and the dark will show up better. I'm going to move this to the side here. Maybe put that right underneath. And then I'll probably convert this to feet. I probably don't need it in miles anymore. And there we go. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right, very nice. So it's the way I like it, and I want to go ahead and notice I don't really need any legends. I could include legends if I wanted to, but most of this stuff is pretty obvious, right? And in your text you'll be talking about this stuff as well. Now, if I had some really major differences and stuff like that, I would probably create a legend if I had a whole bunch of different types of trails and stuff like that. But you don't need to. But if you wanted to create a legend, it's very simple. You just go Insert, Legend. You select which things you want to get carried over. So let's say I want this just the streams and the roads. I'll move everything else out of there and go next, 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 and then there's a legend there. Okay. And if I want streams to be capitalized, I have to go over here and rename it. There you go. All right. And if I want, I could, color the background. I could always open this thing back up and go to the frame and give it a background color. Go to the items and all this other stuff. If I don't even want it to say legend, I could just delete that. And then it's just the legend sitting there by itself. Okay. So you do have those options. All right. But most of this stuff is pretty obvious what it is. But we'll leave it like that. What the heck, right? So I need to save this, right, as its own map document. So I'm going to go save as, and I'm going to call it Fowler Aerial. Go save. And then I go, and I'm going to export this. Those two different ways, like we did before, JPEG, that would go in your Word document. And I would save it as PDF. And that's what you're going to send to me. Alright, so there's that. And now the next thing I'm going to do is just turn off the imagery. Turn on the topo. Everything should look pretty good. You could make these a little darker if you want, a little bit bigger. Maybe if I did put like a background color on there, I could see it a little bit better. Okay. Maybe make the font a little bit larger if you want. Okay, so maybe make that 12 just so it's a little bit bigger, a little easier to see against all those black lines. And maybe make this one a little bit larger. Stuff like that. I'm going to change the name to Fowler Topography. And move this dude back in. Alright, nice. That all works. And I'm ready to save it. So I go File. I'm going to save the map document first. I'm going to call it Aerial or Fowler Topo. Okay, and then I go Fowler, or I export it as a PDF. And then again, in that ever popular JPEG. Again, that's to pull it into your Word document. Alright, so that's all fine and dandy, but you're saying to yourself, alright James, where's the soils? Alright, well, the best thing to do for your soils is to actually create one in Web Soil Survey, and we'll do that in a third tutorial, but a lot of that stuff will be familiar with you anyway. However, it'll be important to show you how you pull in a shapefile into Web Soil Survey. So that'll be kind of the gist of that. But we could also create a soils map with some of these live links or the things as well too. Let me go ahead and show you. I've created another link for soils here, and I don't know why it's not the best in the world, but it does in a pinch, and it serves as a nice kind of map that goes along with all your others. And I'm having a hard time copying it. Come on. There we go. So you highlight it, and it's the NC1 map live stream link, or live stream links for soils. Okay. Copy it, and then go to Add Data. And again, it's still pointing to NC1 map. I'm going to back it up because this is actually a different link. This is the link that you're looking for, and if you don't have it, then you have to add it. Okay, that's why we copied it. So you'd be this is where the soils is living. It's ArcGIS on www.ncmhtd. Okay, if you don't see that on your GIS servers section, then open up Add GIS Server. Make sure it's set to use GIS services, and again delete what's in there and then paste that in and hit finish. Okay, and it will load that up, and it'll have a little green dot on it and all that good stuff. So then you can go ahead and open that up, and so now it's pointing to another server, another part of their server, and what you're going to be pulling in is this one. And again, it's not the best in the world. You click on the NRCS and then select this NRCS soil data, and it pulls it in a whole bunch of different layers of soil data. And it's first you look at it and it's like really crazy looking. Okay, and you know, to the point where I'm going to go ahead and delete my legend because I don't even want it in the legend. It's just all crazy stuff. But in order to see what's going on, you need to turn off your base map and your aerial. And really the only way that you're going to be able to get to see this layer of soils is to turn everything else off and just use the soils as a backdrop. Not very handy, but let me show you how you can clean this up a little bit. It's kind of funky looking right now, but you expand that folder and you'll see soil productivity. Turn that one off. Turn off hydric soils. Turn off prime lands, and now it looks a little less crazy. Okay, but there's all your different soils, and it just serves really as a backdrop. I can't do anything with it. I can't pull this out and save it like I did with the parcels. I can't clip it like I did with the streams. It's just serves, really it's more of just the graphics in the background, but it does serve the point of you having it as part of your collection of maps. And then when you do your web soil survey part of the project, that will that will give all the details of everything that's going on in that. So basically all you need to do at this point is change the name, click OK, and I don't need a legend because it's labeling all the soils for you right there, so that's pretty handy in itself. And there we go, looks pretty good. Then we just go File, Save As, Fowler Soils, click on Save, and then export these bad boys. Do it once as a JPEG, and then do it again as a PDF. So there you have it. In less than an hour, we were able to walk you through and explain in detail. Now, the more you do these things, the faster you get at it. You can start knocking these things out in about 20 minutes once you get the ability and knowing exactly what it is that you want to do under your belt. So we'll leave this for now, and then I will prepare another tutorial that will show you how to put some of those grids out there, and then a third tutorial on how to do the web soil survey with your shapefile. Okay? All right. Until then,